Sound speeds. Welcome to another reaction video. The only thing I know about this video is that it was released by Saramonic. That's it. So let's waste no more time and get right into it. All right, here we go. Hitting paste on this thing, and we're going to hit pause. This video is called Free Tutorial How to Conceal a Lavalier Microphone, released on the Saramonic International YouTube channel with 5.91 thousand subscribers as of the time of this video. It was released on November 20th, 2019, so right before the COVID shutdowns, and has 204,634 views as of right now and 8.4 thousand upvotes. Awesome. So we're not going to waste any more time and get right into it. Let's see. Here's our wonderful video intro with music and all this kind of stuff showing us Saramonic. Now, if you're not familiar with Saramonic, they are an audio brand. They make wireless microphones. They make various different types of sound products, from recorders to wireless microphones. Let's see what they do in this video.
Lavaliers are the most visually discreet way of miking your on-camera subjects and can even be hidden entirely. But often users don't know the simple tricks to hide lavaliers on their subjects.
Okay, they're already showing some kind of interesting techniques there. You know what? I'm not going to be judgmental. Let's see. Whoa, that is a big lavalier that they're using too. The only suspicious thing that the only thing that I'm suspect about in this is that whenever you bury a microphone underneath clothing, like too far away from the edge, like this lav here is going to be best if it's not sandwiched in between layers and it's like deep.
That is why we are going to show you 5 easy ways to conceal lavalier microphones and their cable.
That is, okay, I was going to say that's not concealed. The one thing I would say is that you can see right here already, I could tell that right there that the lav was placed there because you see the wrinkles in this material, and then you see that it looks like it's bunched up right here, right there, and maybe even there. But that bunch right there, here's the thing. If it is noticeable from a sound person's perspective, it's going to be noticed from a costume person's perspective. And so what we normally tell costume people is look at it, make sure you get a good eye on it while we are placing the lavalier, because we don't want them to say, let me adjust it once we're away from them. Like we would rather place the lavalier and then have them there so that way they could look at it and bless it. You know, that way they can say, yeah, that looks good. And then they move on, as opposed to them completely going away and then making the adjustment where we're nowhere near, because when you place a lavalier microphone, it has to pass a 2-part test. Is it good for sound? Is it good for picture? If it's not good for sound and it's good for picture, then it does us no good in the sound department because it's scratchy or whatever. If it sounds good, but it doesn't look good, the costume department will make sure that it looks good before it goes live, before they start recording. And in that case, it might not sound good anymore. So whenever you're placing a lavalier microphone, you would like it to be with the costume person there, so that way they can say, yes, this is good before you move on. Yeah, let's go ahead and stop there and see where they go.
While still getting great sound. Before you spend the time to hide the lavalier, consider this. Concealing a lavalier is vital in many cases, especially when filming a narrative film or television show. But if the lavaliers do not have to be concealed, don't do it. Lavaliers sound...
Yeah, that's exactly right. A lot of the times, like news people, you will see that the news people are wearing a lavalier microphone, and we know news people do it. We know news people wear lav mics, or anybody in a reality show, basically, that does any kind of a direct address, and you know that they're going to be on camera, like, a presenter, for example. But if there is a talent that you're trying to be candid with, then hide it. So that's the rule of thumb.
Much better, and will be much easier to set up if you don't have to hide them. If you do need to hide them, you're in the right place. Follow along as we show you 5 easy ways to conceal a lavalier microphone.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to see what these techniques are. And what I'm wondering about is if Saramonic has, that I'm not aware of, any products that are used to hide a lav. Like I'm not aware of, I know like Ursa and Viviana and Bumblebee, products like that. I've actually done videos on those showing the products that they offer for concealing lavalier microphones. But Saramonic, I don't know if they sell anything that's for concealing lavs. And if so, I would fully expect to see those products in this video.
Before we dive into the 5 tips, we want to teach you common mounting techniques that we will use throughout this video. First,
okay, this is what we are, okay, well, I'm going to pause right here. First of all, she's using a clip. And the reason you add a loop in there is for strain relief. If you can imagine vibration that comes into the lav mic, believe it or not, if you add a little bit of a loop in there, and this is a big, huge bit of tape on there, it doesn't need to be like that. If you add a little bitty loop in there, and it doesn't even need to be taped off. You could just simply loop it around and through itself, and so that it's just looped through. That's all it takes. You don't have to actually, tape it or anything like that. Just as long as there is a loop that kind of goes amongst, against itself, then it's going to prevent a lot of the vibration that happens through the cable, like from, shifting around your waist or something like that up to the lav. It's going to take a lot of that vibration out. It's kind of amazing.
First, we're going to show you how to create a strain relief loop to guard against tugs and jerks that will ruin your take. And then
Okay. All right. The fact that she demonstrated that it slips and then pulled straight off of the clothing, that's a good demonstration. But the fact that it slips with the tape in there, you got to be careful with any kind of adhesives. Because if you put an adhesive on a lav cable, then it's going to potentially make it sticky. As soon as it makes it sticky, you're going to have to use some sort of adhesive remover on it, and then it's going to potentially start to wear down the outside sheath of the lav. So be careful of that.
We will show you the 2 taping methods to attach the microphone.
2? Only 2?
The tape sandwich and...
Okay. All right. First of all, right there, the one thing I would point out is their tape sandwich. Again, they're using the huge lav. Look at this thing. All right. I mean, it's almost as big as like it's like half the size of her finger, and her finger's probably smaller than mine. So they're using something that's quite a big, quite a big thing. It's like the size of a pencil, it looks like. But you see how it like arches up and goes over? That means that you're only really touching this part of the lav to the tape right there. So what I usually suggest you do is press in with your finger. So when you put the tape on top, press downward. So that way it goes snug all the way around, like a half circle around, and then it snugs to the moleskin down there and then out. Another note on this moleskin is make sure that it is something that has a good adhesive to it, like Dr. Scholl's. If you're not going to use something like Ursa or Viviana, a brand name that is made for sound people, and you're going to use something, because it looks to me like if they're using this, then they're probably appealing more to a consumer market. So if you're using consumer-based stuff, then you might as well go old school with Dr. Scholl's. A note on this, use the non-medicated. If you use the medicated, it could irritate some people's skin and make them break out.
And the encapsulation method. To create
Oh no, they went old school with the football.
a strain relief loop, loosely make a hoop in the cable about 2 to 4 inches below the mic itself.
Please don't say,
Sticky
Okay, the sticky side out. That means it's going to stick on everything. Okay, let's see what she says.
side out, loosely fasten the hoop, so the cable moves freely within the loop.
All right, the only advantage to this is that you're going to be able to use this to stick it between layers of clothing. The only problem is this is like gaff tape, that is what she's using. So if you stick this on the underside of a shirt, the other side of that's going to be potentially the skin. You don't want to put gaff tape directly on skin. So I'm not a really big fan of this. What I would be more a fan of is if she were to use moleskin like before. Or better yet, like I said before, just loop it through. Like, for example, I have this USB cable here. So I'll at least demonstrate with this. As opposed to looping it around and taping it like this, simply just take it through and make a little bit of a loop like that. It's, a little bit bigger than what you're seeing on the screen right there. But the advantage is, well, this is also a very thick cable. But the advantage is, right there, you're not using any kind of adhesives. And if you wanted to attach it with an adhesive to clothing, you absolutely can. You just put a little piece of moleskin there or here, something like that. It's going to be just fine.
Using a small piece of string would work as well.
Okay, so what she's using there almost looks like a zip tie. Or not a zip tie, a tie wrap, like what comes on bread. So the big thing you got to be careful with if you use anything like that is this little sharp bit right there as you tie it around, because depending on what you use, it may end up sticking someone's skin and be like a little pinprick, because usually there's some sort of a wire inside of those. So just be careful.
This provides much needed strain relief in case the lavalier's cable gets tugged on during the shoot.
Okay, but the thing is, you want to try to limit the strain that's going to be placed on the lav mic. And you do that in a few different ways. I actually go into this in my and I'll kind of put a link right there to the announcement of the Lav course that I taught that I have available for purchase for $100. I go into it more in detail, but what I will say is that if you place a Lav correctly and with a few things in mind, you don't have to use the strain relief loop under most circumstances.
Taping a lavalier anywhere is easy as using cloth gaffer tape,
Oh my gosh.
moleskin, or medical tape.
Okay. The advantage to using something like medical tape is that they're usually easier on the skin. And they are, because it's medical, it's designed for it to go on skin without even somebody who has sensitive skin. You can put it on somebody's skin and it's not going to potentially, damage their skin or hurt them, something like that. The big thing you're going to run into is people will say, oh, I can't have any adhesives on my skin. And if that's the case, attach it to the clothes. And moleskin would be a good approach to that because it will feel a lot like the clothing itself. So if you put it on where, like, for example, a piece of moleskin on top of the Lav like this, and you stick it to the clothes, if my skin were to touch this side of it, you would feel that cloth on the moleskin.
And taping it where
against your
you want
skin
to hide the mic. Adhesive moleskin is often a favorite to use when taping directly under clothing.
Yeah, she's right about that. Wow, he's putting that up high. The advantage of putting a Lav up high like that is that it's going to be closer to the mouth. The closer you get to the mouth, usually it's going to sound better until you get to the point where it's underneath the chin. Like if you make a plane straight from here, straight down, then if it's underneath this part of your mouth and back here, so it's not seeing line of sight to your lips, that's what's called the chin shadow, where the mouth is here and anything that's inside of that is going to be slightly off axis. Because just like any microphone that you point at a mouth, if you go behind someone's head with a microphone, then it's going to basically be out of an area where you could potentially, if the microphone capsule cannot see the mouth, it's going to be off axis. Plain and simple. That's the way it is with the Lav also.
And you can apply it directly to the skin. Moleskin excels at reducing the sound of fabric rustling against the lavalier and sabotaging your audio.
That is true. The big thing you got to keep in mind about moleskin is that it can bunch up clothing. Like, so if you have something like a wife beater, for example, on, and it's a very thin material, moleskin can not only show through that, but it also you could see when you stick it to clothing, you can actually see through the other side of that, that the skin is held, taut and there's no wrinkles in it anymore. So just got to be careful. That's any tape though, I guess.
A high-quality cloth gaffer tape works great on clothing and props.
Something like Shore tape would be good, and they're not using very much of it right there.
We would
they are.
recommend using gaff tape directly on the skin. For that, adhesive moleskin or medical tape is a much better choice.
There you go.
Here are two excellent taping methods. First, the tape sandwich is an extremely versatile and discreet taping method.
All right, did you notice how when she took her fingers away from making that tape, that moleskin sandwich, she pressed it down and that it was like making an A frame like that as opposed to going in and then back out, like snugging the Lav more? That's what I was talking about. Like watch right here as she takes her hand away. It rocks this way. The Lav actually moves inside there. So you should press this down and snug around the moleskin to here. So that way it basically goes straight up in this U shape and then goes straight out. That's going to grab the maximum amount of the Lav and the maximum amount of the moleskin that's going to hold on to it. As soon as she takes her fingers away, you see the whole thing shift.
Tape sandwich is an extremely versatile and discreet tape.
See how it shifted right as soon as she moved her hands? That's the issue you're going to run into. And also, you see how it's loose around there? That's going to potentially pull out if you're not grabbing the Lav very well.
That keeps the mic secure and avoids noise. To make a tape sandwich, start with 2 small strips of adhesive moleskin or tape with one
slightly bigger than the other, yeah.
One slightly longer than the other. Then, place the Lav without the windscreen on the sticky side of the shorter strip, with the top of the mic right at the top of the strip.
Yeah, it looks like it's down like a millimeter or something like that. I was about to say that.
Now, sandwich the shorter strip to the non-sticky side of the longer strip, leaving a little extra space at the top of the longer strip.
Oh, come on, you're killing me here. It's a lot of material here. Like you don't have to put so much material here on a moleskin sandwich. It can be closer, like a millimeter off of it. And I would almost recommend that. That way you could get it closer to the edge of the clothing. Any of this extra material out here, you're going to have to back off from the clothing. So if the clothing is here and the moleskin it stops here then your lava is going to be back deeper. So just be careful.
Strip. Securing the lav like this.
Gosh, you see how much room there is in there? You want it to actually grab hold. Like it's already starting to come loose because she's just didn't press it down very well. So it's like going at half C, but she really needed to press it down very well because it's loose.
Protects the lavalier from external contact and noise.
Okay, so it's up really high. The disadvantage of having it up there, not only the chin shadow, but if it's not on the clothing properly, like if you look at someone's clothing, you will see that like my chest right here is going to be an area where the skin is right underneath the cloth. So like the skin will if it's pressing out, anything that goes outwards like this, the shirt or whatever is going to be gravity is going to hold it straight to the material, as opposed to a part like this, like underneath, like your chest or something like that. If your waist goes inwards, then the shirt's going to hold away from your body and you can hide anything you want to under that area. So if the more of a belly you have, the more you're pressing out on the clothing and it's going to make it more visible. So any place that the clothing is touching skin, try to avoid having a lav because it's going to make a bulge that you could end up seeing, or the costume department can see.
The sandwich tape method is very versatile and can be used in many scenarios, especially in places with limited space, like under form-fitting clothing.
Yeah, but you're not doing it right. Oh no, you're doing it wrong already. All right, so she's mounting it behind. She's using the football method, which is when you make, and she'll probably go into this because she mentioned 2 different techniques. Basically, you're taking gaff tape at this point. You're basically making one of those like paper footballs that you used to make as a kid, but you're making it backwards with, you take a piece of gaff tape, you pull it, you rip it in half, and then fold each half into a little triangle. And then you put the lav in there. And you can either put it like, if the triangle is going this way, you could either put it this way, or you could face it the exact opposite direction. So there's more surface area in it, and the triangle goes, it's flatter like this, and then the triangle goes down to a point. So you could do it either way, depending on what you're going for. The one disadvantage of using this, the way she's using it right now behind a tie, is you're burying the lav underneath the tie. Where's the mouth? It's going to be on top of the tie. So it's right up at the very top, and then the tie goes on top, and it's a big, thick material that's like multiple layers. You see, like usually there's 2 sides to this. It's like a tube, and then it's squashed flat. So there's 2 layers here. Then there's 2, maybe even more layers to the tie itself. So then you bury a lav underneath there? Oh, no, I'm not a fan of this.
Now, we're...
Yikes! Yikes! That's terrible because the lav is stopping right here. So, okay. You know what? I've already made my point.
Encapsulation method. This method does a great job of isolating the mic and makes it easy to securely stick almost anywhere.
Okay, one thing I would also point out is you see how the cable's coming straight out so that it's going right to the point. You can do it that way, or you could actually have it coming in a little bit more of an angle. So that way you're using this as more of almost like a prop, a vertical type prop to hold it up. And the cable can come in at this more of an angle, or it can come in from a steeper angle at the bottom. It doesn't have to come in right at a 45-degree angle to the 2 edges. It can come in at a slight angle if you'd like to.
Start with 2 3 to 4 inch strips of cloth gaff tape. Fold each in a triangle shape. Okay, the disadvantage of what she's doing right there is making a humongous mount. This is a 2-inch piece of gaff tape that she's using. What you normally would want to do is rip it in half. So rip it, like if the tape is going up this way, rip it straight down the middle, and then make each one of those. You tie each one of those into so it's like an inch as opposed to 2-inch, and you make it, and then you sandwich it together. Maybe the reason she's doing this is because the lav is so big and she needs to have the surface area. If she used a 1-inch piece times 2 of gaff tape on either side, it's not going to be grabbing very much of her Saramonic lav. End over end, sticky side out, to create 2 triangles.
See how big that thing is compared to her hand?
Encapsulate the lavalier without the windscreen between the 2 triangles.
That is a big lav. This is a 2-inch piece of gaff tape. And yet this lav is so big compared to it. And it's going deep into the frame. Geez, that thing is huge.
Be sure not to block the sound ports at the top of the microphone. Once completed, you've created a protective encapsulation that can be stuck any...
Okay, and then she did exactly what she said not to do and put it up against the skin. Did you notice that? Watch again. She puts it right there, And then watch her when she closes the shirt.
Protective
She's jamming it straight up against her skin. And then she's going to tie this. So she said, don't put gaff tape on skin. And she's right. You should not use this method right there. If she was wearing an undershirt, like even if it was a t-shirt type thing under a white beat or something like that, you can put it there. That's fine. The biggest thing that you're running into as an issue there is going to be it touching the skin.
And friction. There are
and the size.
A ton of excellent products you can buy to tape
Wait a minute.
friction. There are also
Okay, I thought that said overcover. So I said, that's not an overcover. That is an undercover.
a ton of excellent products you
Versa
can buy
tape.
to tape, secure, and encapsulate the lavalier.
Now that's for a tram. That's a different lav altogether. Not the one that she's demonstrating. Because a tram is a side address. So it comes up here and then the sound goes, it picks up from the side here as opposed to out the end. So just be aware that some of the things, now it's called a vampire clip because it has two little needles that poke down. Be careful if you ever use one because it's very easy for you to prick your finger if you are trying to thread a lav like the COS 11 one. I hate those because they're very tight on the COS 11. And if you don't grab it correctly, you're going to be pressing it in. It's going to stab right through your finger. So just be aware when you have any kind of a mount where anything that's dangerous could be because it could also touch the skin of the actor. So usually you would use something like this on the bra or on an outer layer of a shirt. So like if they're wearing an undershirt and they're wearing an overshirt, you would maybe put it on the inside seam of the overshirt. So that way, if it were touching anything on the undershirt, then it would protect against the skin. But there's a lot of mounts that are better than vampires, in my opinion, this day and age.
And
I go into them in the class I teach.
Included a list of these great products below. But these simple techniques.
See, what's interesting to me is that she shows the COS 11 right there. And because of the size of how close it zoomed in, it looks a lot bigger than it actually is. This lavalier microphone is probably about a third of the thickness of the one that she showed, that Saramonic one that's big. This is like a little tiny thing. So interesting.
Included a list of these great products below.
And very few of these products would actually work. Like the ones that are cut to size would work with the Saramonic lav.
There are also
that one would, but it wouldn't cover very much because the whole thing would be over, it would only leave a little bit of an edge.
Excellent product.
And then this here you could use
buy to tape, secure, and
that you can. It's a totally different kind of lav. And then this here definitely could not use. Because if you were to put the Saramonic one inside of there, it would cover all of this area. It would literally cover all of this. So it would be bulging out way too much, and it would not be much of the surface area at all touching the material because it would just bulge out way too much.
But these simple techniques work just as well if applied correctly and cost a fraction of those devices. And once
they're not going to be as good, even though they do cost a fraction of those devices. There's a reason why pros use what they use. The techniques she's showing are workarounds and things that you can use for inexpensive type fixes. Even then, there are better ways than what she's showing right now. I'll go into those in the class I'm teaching. I'm not going to, this video is already like 11 minutes and 47 seconds long. I don't need to go into an entire tutorial on how to do this stuff. Just let it be known. There's much better ways than what she's showing so far.
Either of these methods are completed, you can really tape the lavalier anywhere you'd like. So let's get started.
As long as it is not visible through the clothing. Collared shirts. Okay, so let me cover this. Let me cover this real quick. If you are, and we'll see what they say here, but the things that we're going to be listening for is if you put it inside of, because she mentioned a collared shirt, if you put it inside of the collar, if someone turns their head this way, you want to try to have it favor this side. If someone turns their head this way, you want to have it favor this side. If they're facing straight, it doesn't really matter. The big thing to keep in mind there, though, is that it is going to be very close to the neck. And if they have any kind of a scratchy type, like this, anything that's scratchy, whiskers, for example, could potentially cause rubbing on the lav. I've heard that so many times. And this is a very popular look. It looks like they have it shaved. I'm just doing it because I'm lazy. But a lot of actors will have this look. And when they do that, you will hear it on the clothing and on the lav all day long. It's so irritating. And And so that's one way. Another way is inside, sandwiched inside the seam. Like usually there's a folded over seam and then it's sewn. And that's you have that same thing times 2. And that creates this like opaque, you can't see through it. As opposed to the material that's single layer, it will be straight up the middle. So you can also hide a lot inside there. And then when you button it up, it's going to be covering up the cable so it's invisible. Those are the 2 most popular places on a collared shirt.
Formal.
So let's see what happens.
Even casual environments, collared
or in a tie.
Very common. And they provide some of the easiest ways to hide a lavalier. Let's start at the top, the collar.
Okay, so she is going to the collar.
The subject's shirt. Then slip the cable under the collar where you want to place the mic. Tape it.
There's a couple of things to be aware of here. If you run it down the back of someone's shirt, and then over and she's basically building it with the collar folded up. 2 things. Number 1 is the costume department may not appreciate you flipping the collar up to make those adjustments. Number 2 is when you flip the collar back down, it's going to put a really weird fold inside of the cable. So because you're making it this way, as soon as you fold the collar back down, it's going to be going up and over and back in. So it's usually not recommended that you do this unless the person's wearing a jacket over the shirt, because you're going to have to cover up the cable that's visible. Right now, you can't do this technique at all unless they're wearing a jacket. And even then, you got to be careful because quite often a jacket will reveal a little bit of the collar in the back. So you could still see that cable peeking in there. What I usually recommend instead is if you're going to do this technique, you can run, well, first of all, if it's a professional film set, you can ask them to just put a little bitty hole in the back of the collar. That way you can run it up the inside of the shirt and then stick it out through that. And it would be completely concealed inside the back here. And then the other way to do it would be to run it straight up from the front, hiding it inside the material in the front, and then you build it off to the side of the collar. You run it up and then go around the tie, and then, or there is no tie in this case. So in that case, then what you would, if there's no tie, then yeah, you'd probably have to go up the back. But that's when you just put a little cut in there. Costume department will do that, not you.
Put it in place with a small strip of tape at the entry point. Then add a second piece of tape here for strain
relief. Yeah,
then
that's correct.
Lavalier using a tape sandwich to the
okay. I frown on this. See the color of the shirt? That lav is so big that if you are not careful, in order to make that lav sound good, you see how it's facing outwards? It's going to be trying to pick up a little bit of the off-axis sound to the mic. It's going to sound not as detailed because it's off-axis. Your mouth is here. It's facing outwards. The collar is going to be underneath the chin shadow, facing outwards. And because it's so big, you're going to have to back it up a little bit inside the shirt to keep it from having this big black chunk visible on a light blue shirt. So just be aware of that.
The edge of the collar, just out of view.
They'll probably use creative angles in their video to show that it's well hidden and you can't see it. It'll probably be this angle, but flip down.
Always try to orient the mic to the side the subject is most likely facing.
Like I guarantee right now, it's so funny to me how they're using they're literally having a flag in the back with netting. With a net to cut the light that's on the table. Anyway, she's not wearing a lav. I guarantee this is a boom mic.
For instance, if the person they're speaking to is to the left of them, they will be facing left or slightly to it.
Okay, so that's exactly what I was saying before. So I'm glad they covered that.
So mounting the lavalier on the left is the best choice. If the subject is going to be facing forward, it doesn't make a difference. Another great place for a collared shirt is right at the top of the 3rd button, which is usually right in the sweet spot.
That's when she's going to put it straight against the skin again.
Mouth. The encapsulation
and that's right.
Securely tape the lav behind and slightly above the 3rd,
but not over top of a button. And that's a little on the high side. You want to be careful if you put it up there because that's going to be in the danger zone if the shirt is very, very thin right there.
About 6 to 8 inches from the subject's mouth, and use a small strip of tape to secure the cable on the inside of the shirt.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. There's a few things I could do to make it better, but that's accurate.
Be easier. Giving so many places to hide the mic, we could not cover them all. So, here are a few easy tips
It's the same thing that I said. There's a lot of techniques. Hey, there you go. They're doing it.
Slip the lavalier through the button flap, approximately 6 to 8 inches from
go up and over the top.
The double-sided stickiness using the encapsulation.
Oh no, 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 no. Oh no, no, no. That's so bad. Don't do that. It's going to sound like total crap. It buries the lob behind the tie by multiple layers of cloth. And then ties also, I mean, I know she said that it keeps the tie in place. The problem is, as someone moves, the tie may stretch a little bit because ties do move up and down as someone does move back and forth. And then if they move or stand up and sit down, that can pull on that and cause it to make a friction type stretching sound.
Also are an easy spot to conceal a lavalier. The lapels of suit jackets and sport coats are open in the
Yeah. The problem is, you see where that is right now? It's going to be close to the tie. So the tie could potentially move. The jacket could be potentially moving all over the place and even if you buttoned up the front, it's still going to shift. And still, as it's moving, the lob is way deep. So this lob is actually way deep inside. You would want it to be closer to the edge. Another why they're doing it is because the color of this lob does not match the jacket. Just like on the shirt, the light blue. Not a very big fan of what they're showing so far.
Sweet spot. And it is so easy to tape the mic right inside the opening.
Yeah, it could also be very visible.
Can be unbuttoned or unzipped to open this area too.
See, that's better.
Run the cable inside the jacket, securing the cable before and after the strain relief loop.
Yeah.
Tape the lavalier inside the jacket, 6 to 8 inches from the subject's mouth. And
yeah, that's pretty much right. There's just a few things to do better.
Use the flap method from the collared shirt portion of the video. If it's zipped up all the way, use the next method we are going to cover.
Okay, so, on the skin, undershirt, or bra. So let's see what she says about this.
Undershirt or bra is quick, easy, and effective. When taping on the skin, use adhesive moleskin or medical tape only.
Okay.
This is for the comfort and safety of the subject.
Yeah.
Start by securing the cable.
Yeah, this is pretty much right. Whoa, geez, where she's going right now is a big no-no. You do not tape right up the front. That is right in the danger zone of where the camera's going to be seeing. They're going to be looking. Camera operators are going to be looking for any little bitty line through there, and that's a danger zone for a cable.
Cable to the lower torso with a small strip of medical.
Very much wrong.
And after the strain relief loop.
And the loop is right there on the middle of the stomach. Most people are going to have a little bit of a belly, and this is going to be pushing that loop out. So it's going to reveal a loop right there on their chest. So this is terrible advice.
Using either the sandwich or the encapsulation method, tape the mic 6 to 8 inches from the subject's mouth.
Okay. There's another better way. I'm not going to get into it now. There's a better way that doesn't involve any adhesives, and I go into it in that class. But you know what? There's things you could do to make this better. Hiding the cable, for example. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Keep on going.
Then conceal with a shirt or top. If the subject doesn't want the tape directly on their skin, you can mic the inside of their clothing using medical tape or gaff tape.
And they didn't even do that right either. Look at where that positioning is. You should want this to be up higher. So they love burying this stuff because right now, this part right here is going to be covering up the line of sight from the capsule to the mouth. And you see how the lob is also pointing outwards? It's just not good placement. Why would you? And then you're using adhesives? Tuck it underneath the bra. What's wrong with you? Saramonic, you need to buy my course.
Run the cable up the subject's back, securing the cable to the back of the bra and strategically along the strap of the bra, mounting the lavalier dead center between the cups.
And you see, look, you can't have adhesives on the skin, but it's going to be touching the skin doing this method. And there's so much strain. There's so much strain. Look at this. It's taut. The lob is actually pulling out at a slight angle here because it's so taut.
With a tape sandwich. Then
she's having to position it. She was having to position it back to on the left-hand side. You see how it's actually the way she did it was so far over to the left-hand side of the frame right over here because it's too it's too taut right through here. So it's like pulling off at an angle. So when she pushes it down, it shifts the whole thing over farther this way because it's off center already. It's too taut.
With a tape sandwich.
That's going to cause, you know how like a guitar string, you strum it and it makes a sound because it's pulled, there's tension on it. The more tension you put on something like that, the more a chance it's going to have of resonation. So any type of material that if you pull a cloth over a lav or something like that, any material that touches a taut lav cable can transfer through to the capsule. And the same kind of thing would happen if if it's taut and you have it, taped to the person themselves, if they shift around or something like that, that can cause transfer noise into the lav. Not a good technique that they're showing here.
Then, conceal with a shirt or top.
Yeah, there's better ways. Just hide it inside of the actual... You don't have to use adhesives. Don't use them.
Often, people wear t-shirts, sweaters, blouses, or other casual tops.
And those things will go through.
Here are a few simple but effective ways to conceal your...
You can see a lav through them quite often.
A low-cut top or a V-neck t-shirt.
I swear it's right here. It feels to me like that and right there are lumps that we're seeing right there in the V. I mean, I have not watched this video. We'll see what happens.
It's very easy to just center the mic right on or very near the sweet spot.
And look at that. You see, you could see right here, straight plain as day. That's what I was looking at before. See this square? That is exactly where they just put that lav. That's what I was saying before. You can just see it plain as day because the way they put that adhesive on there, it's pushing down, it's pulling the shirt. And this is by no means a high quality. Let's see what this is, 720. Let's put it on 1080. Is it going to be any better? Probably not with the camera they're shooting. But on a high res, UHD, image that we record on set, costume department is going to be very critical about something like this, especially if it makes a square that is very visible through the wardrobe. There's a way to get around that.
You can even expose the lavalier out of the opening with...
This whole thing is pinched. See that? The whole thing is pinched. You see this square right through there. They're not going to like this at all. This whole thing is warped. You see how this looks all smooth? And then right there is where the tape starts to warp it from where it's not proper technique. You could see the line come straight up there to where it makes this cable, or makes the edge change.
Without it being visible on camera.
Without it being visible on camera, sure.
Showing how we to the inside of the shirt.
That is wrong because you're going to be revealing the cable straight through this thin shirt against someone's skin.
It is inside out for demonstration purposes. When it is a crew neck,
that's wrong. Very wrong.
Top, taping the mic at the collar can be too high. The shadow of the chin can make the mic sound muffled when mounted dead center.
Yeah. Well, at least they understand that part. And so you can tell that the lav is right there. It almost looks like they're superimposing it there so you can see where it is.
In those cases, you can orient the mic to the left or right of the subject's chin, preferably on the side the subject will most likely be facing.
Yeah, the problem that you run into is that actors will sometimes look away and deliver a line, and it's going to go off mic. That's the purpose behind a lav is it's a safety net. So if you're doing something like this, just be careful because if someone turns their head at all, it goes completely off mic.
If the shirt is especially form-fitting or the fabric is sheer, you may have to run the microphone's cable up the back of the subject.
That's right.
Along the collar to the center.
Gosh, that is a big honking piece of tape. And this is not when you would want to use gaff tape. This is where you would put the moleskin. That way the moleskin would be on the outside. That way when they put it against the skin, they're not feeling this tape on them. As much as you may like the tape, you see where you tear it and stuff, that's going to make a little bit of adhesive right around the edge. You put something like this on there, they're going to feel the tape and they're going to feel the adhesive if it rubs at all. If it's hot outside, it's going to start to get really irritating and it's going to grab the skin. Put moleskin on if you're going to do this technique.
Just make sure to discreetly tape the cable around the neckline collar to keep the mic secure.
And luckily, they notice how thick of a collar they gave you here on this. Not all of them are that way. Some are very, very small. So, hats or hair? What are they going to do?
An excellent place to hide a lavalier and still capture great.
Okay, they're making it very obvious here, but you just got to be careful. You can't have it look like that.
Great sound.
See, that's more concealed, where they just pulled down that rim a little bit. So they had it pulled up a little bit more to demonstrate, and then they pulled down the rim. So just be careful.
Hiding the lavalier in the brim of a hat couldn't be easier. Simply run the cable up the back of the subject's shirt. Tape.
Provided you don't see someone's back, that's fine. But as soon as someone walks away or turns their head or something like that, you can see the loop going up from the back of the shirt straight up to the hat. Some hats, you can actually mount the transmitter on the inside.
Taping it in place. Then, run the mic cable into the hat, taping it into place, and tape the lavalier.
Yikes.
The hat just out of sight.
Yikes. Yikes. Okay. The problem with doing it this way is you're taping it to the shirt, then you're taping it to the hat before you place it. That's bad. Tape it to the inside of the hat first, place it on their head, then run the cable and tape it to the back of the shirt. If you do it this way, it could be too taut. It could be too loose. You're going to have to make an adjustment. So tape it on the hat itself and build it from the lav back. And then when you place the hat on their head, that's when you're going to run it down. But you see this, it's completely visible right through there and straight at the back. So if this guy turns his head more than just a little bit, it's going to be straight up visible. And that's not good.
For a knit hat, tape the lavalier to the opening of the hat, right to the top.
Oh my gosh. You see how it's sticking over the edge? If you're going to do it that way and be that sloppy about it, geez, at least, trim that off.
Of the subject's forehead. Mount the lavalier with the tip just exposed out of the opening of the hat for best results.
Yeah, and you see how she actually recessed it like underneath. The tape is here and the lav is here. In this case, what you'd want to do is actually have the lav sticking up out from the tape, not the way that they've done the entire video where everything is recessed behind the tape. Plain and simple.
If the subject is going to be in a close-up, you can conceal it entirely. For hair,
well, that's because you're going to be on a boom mic.
You can secure the cable to the hair using bobby pins, barrettes, or, in a pinch, a mic clip.
Yeah, but you want to use toupee clips also is what's normally the standard. Plus, who is it? Is it Ursa, Viviana, Bumblebee? Somebody makes an actual clip. I talk about it in my various different tutorials or various different walkthroughs of products that are available on the market for lavs. So you can check it out in one of those videos. I'll put links at the end.
But when it comes to mounting the lavalier to the subject, every scenario is different, depending on the subject's hairstyle. For a man or woman with short hair.
Now, normally you'd want to involve the hair department for this because you're going to mess up someone's hair if you do this. You don't want to do this. Let the hair department do it, and you could be part of the process.
You can secure the microphone to the top front center of their head using bobby pins or a mic clip.
Yikes. That's the same as booming at the top of someone's head. It is so far back. What you want to do is you got to bring it down some. It's got to be down here and hiding amongst this. Short hair is not good for this. Putting it way up in here, it's going to be, the head is here. Think about where the mouth is. The mouth is way down here. So the shape of someone's face might be this. And usually it's more flat. And the mouth is going to be right here, right? And then you're putting the lav way up here? This is not good placement at all. What's better placement for a male, if you're going to do that, is coming in on the side. That way it's at least closer to the mouth.
For a man or woman with long flowing hair, you can mount it to the top or either side of their.
Yeah, there you go. To the side a little bit more, right up through here, right over top of the ear, something like that. That's where I've done it. Now, the straight on the top middle, that's where they do it in Broadway when they're wearing wigs and stuff like that, or like a hat, but this is a much better placement.
Their face, out of view when covered by their hair. The mic can be secured using.
Be careful of girls that flip their hair, though. If there's a scene where she's trying to catch the attention of some guy or even a girl or whatever, whoever they're trying to if it's a scene where they're dating and she's constantly messing with her hair, she might pull it back and reveal the lav. So just be aware of that. Watch the rehearsal.
The mic's clip, bobby pins, or short strips of medical or even toupee tape. The positioning will vary from person to person.
You don't want to use tape in hair. Plain and simple. Don't use tape in hair.
Depending on their hair and the action in the production. Obviously, these hair tips and tricks only work if the person has enough hair to hide the lavalier.
Yeah, it wouldn't work on someone like me where I'm thinning up through here.
If you have a black lavalier, like most people do, these tips will only work with darker hair.
Yeah, try to match the lav to the color of their hair and skin, or both.
If a subject has lighter hair, choosing a lavalier that is beige, tan, or white, depending on their hair color, would be a much better choice.
Okay, using props. Okay, so they're talking about planting.
Easy tips for concealing a.
Oh, goody! They're giving us a bonus.
This is a bonus.
Oh, there you go.
But using props to hide lavs is fun and easy.
Yeah, it also picks up a lot of noise from. If it looked like she was bounding on a candle, that means they're probably going to be eating in the scene, because it looks like that candle right back there. So the big thing you got to keep in mind is that people do a lot of work a lot of busy work when they're doing dinner type sequences. They're going to be using silverware on the plates. They're going to be pulling apart bread and stuff like that. All that's going to be very close to a plant mic. And the fact that she's mounting it so low on there and straight up and down, you got to keep in mind also that anytime you place a lav on a surface, that surface is going to be creating a boundary layer effect, pulling in sound against that boundary. So it's going to pick up a little bit differently than it would if it was on your chest or floating in the air, or one of the dreaded ones someone holds.
But the camera angle and mic's proximity to your subject is key and works best in a static scene where your subject's distance from the microphone doesn't change. Here is a simple scene where we hit 8 lavs. Do you see them? Let's look again from a different angle.
Okay. All right, I'm laughing because this is god-awful. Okay, first of all, the bad reason is because look at this one. Look at this one. Look at this one. These are so far away. If you're going to place it like a plate would be closer to you. But at the same time, if you're going to place something farther away, something big, look at this cable. This cable, you have to run this cable across the table. There's no placemats or anything like that. It's going to be hard to hide a cable. If there's like one camera here, one camera there, you're just going to all be revealing this. By hiding the lavs in front far away, that's the issue you run into. The problem with running it very close to you, like where this one is right now, the problem with that one is that if you run it close, then you are running the risk of it being underneath someone, like in the whole shadow again. Plants are an art form, and I mean, they're using enough lavs here. Hopefully they get something, but
there's one behind the wine bottle.
Yep.
There's one behind the candle.
Yep.
There are 2 right on the table's edges.
That's going to be... Those could potentially be your best bet unless the actors are leaning against the table. If they're leaning against the table, then it's useless.
There's one under each.
Yeah, so that way it's going to catch it's going to sound, the ones underneath the plate. Imagine this, the table's here, the plate comes up over top of it. What is that sound going to be like? Even if it's angled outwards, it's an omnidirectional pattern mic. It's going to be picking up a lot of really weird reverb type sounds, and it's going to pick up some all the sound that comes in. It's like listening through a seashell to a certain degree. It's just, it closes off the lav too much, and it's making it more directional, but not in an acoustic friendly way.
Played. There's one behind the bowl.
Yeah.
And one under the napkin.
Under the napkin? Why would you put it under the napkin? It's useless. I didn't even see that one because I was thinking it wouldn't be that useless. The ones I saw is I definitely saw these. Those are the big ones right there, where the biggest issue that you're going to run into is those cables. I did not see that one. I did see that one and that one. That one, if I would have looked harder, and that one there, if I would have looked harder. What I normally look for is cables running. So if you see the cables, you're going to see the lavs or whatever the cables going to the plants are.
No one would use 8 lavaliers to mic a simple 2-person scene like this.
And, geez, even then, look at this. You're revealing the cable. So even the center shot that she's using right here. So the 2 shot, you're revealing one of your cables right there. The camera department, this is a stationary shot too. There's no reason for us to see this cable. If the shot were moving at all, like a lot of the times, they like to move shots, this is going to be straight up revealed. This is not going to be good placement.
But it illustrates the point. A little creative thought makes it possible to hide a lavalier.
Yeah, creative thought doesn't make it good. And a lot of what they just got through doing, you put down 8 lavs, not any of those are going to sound good. Well, maybe the closest one would be the ones that were way out in front. But then it's going to be far away from the mouth. So at that point, it's better to use a lav.
Almost anywhere.
Lav on the person.
There you have it. 5 easy ways to conceal a lavalier microphone. Be sure to check out our other video, 5 easy lavalier mic tips and tricks for better sound. Linked here for detailed demonstrations and
oh my goodness,
get the best sound out of your lavalier.
Okay. To be completely honest, their information here is kind of old. Not just 4 years old, which would make it more in line with this video. This is probably like the way we would do it 10 to 15 years ago. except for when they showed all the different more modern products, but they only showed moleskin, medical tape, and the football. The football I have not seen used on set or seen on set in probably 15 years. That was before we started having all these modern day mounts. Moleskin, medical tape, we definitely did. And that's still used today depending on the situation and scenario. But a lot of the techniques that they showed are outdated. There's better techniques, and there are ways that you just would not want to do it. So keep that in mind. I don't want to like shame Saramonic on this one, but I kind of expected more. I mean, their techniques were sloppy. They should have used smaller lavs, not the big. I mean, I know why they used the ones that they used. You could argue that they wanted to be more visible to camera, but they're big. And they're not going to hide very well. A lot of what the techniques were that they showed are not going to work in the real world, because on their video, I don't know if you noticed or not, that their clothes were very far out from the skin. So when they placed a lav, they were like, oh, look at how it goes. And then the shirt was like out. So if it's out, it's going to, of course, hide. But as soon as the costumer comes over and starts pressing flat the outfit, it's going to reveal the cables. It's going to reveal the lav. So not good for many reasons. Saramonic needs to do a little bit of work before they're going to start teaching tutorials like this. And unfortunately, I've seen other people online teach very similar techniques. In other videos, I've talked a little bit more about laving, but it is an art, and you have to know quite a bit before you actually jump into it and start doing it on a set or something like that. Or unless, it's a low budget set and you're doing trial and error and try to figure it out as you go, in which case you could afford to screw up. But unfortunately, a lot of these techniques here that they just showed, there are much better ways to do it. So thank you for tuning in this episode of Sound Speeds, and be sure to tune in the future where I'll teach and dissect videos. I will do all kinds of things for the ultimate goal of bringing you sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.